You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
Welcome to Opinion Nation.
And we stand today on the edge of a new frontier.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
What makes us Americans is our shared commitment to an ideal, that all of us are created equal.
I, too, am America.
Now here's your host, Bryce Robbins.
Hello, everybody, on this rainy Saturday morning. My name is Bryce Robbins. This is Opinion Nation, and today I am joined by somebody who's running for Congress, actually, from the 8th District of my home state, New Jersey. His name's Eloy J. Delgado, and let's have him introduce himself. So why don't you tell us a couple words about yourself and why you're running for Congress?
Well, Bryce, thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on with you and with your viewers. I really appreciate the chance to get to talk to them, and thank you for the opportunity to get my message out there. Like you said before, my name is Eloy Javier Delgado. I'm a public school teacher. I've been a teacher for a little over 4 years now. Prior to that, I did work in the Treasury Department for the state of New Jersey. And prior to that, I went to school at Fairleigh Dickinson University, where I got very much involved in many different clubs, and I was in a fraternity. And the reason I'm running is because I came back to my community. I came back to Elizabeth, New Jersey. I grew up in poverty. I grew up in public housing. When I graduated college, having to go back home was an eye-opening experience, because before going to Madison, New Jersey, yes, I knew there was differences in neighborhood. I knew there were the middle class, there were the rich, there were the poor, and I was on the poor end of things, but it doesn't become really real to you until you're exposed to it, to the point that I didn't really even know that most schools in New Jersey do not have metal detectors at their doors. I just assumed that was the norm, because that was my experience growing up from the time I was in kindergarten. It was my experience growing up with gunshots outside of my neighborhood. So these are the things that by going to Madison for college, I was exposed to. No, there's a different world out there. There's a different reality. And when I came back here, I bought my home in Elizabeth. I invested it in my community. I believe it's important that people buy into their own areas, into urban areas, especially if we want to uplift these communities. Those kids in that neighborhood have less chances of getting out than I had growing up because of the student loan debt crisis that we're facing, because the collapse of working class jobs, even for high school graduates. I mean, if you're just a high school graduate, the opportunities out there aren't many. So there's a lot of work to be done. I think they are hidden, unfortunately, and I want to be a strong advocate for them.
Wow.
I still have family that lives there, so it's something that's very personal to me. So that's, in a nutshell, there are many other issues that motivated me to run, but I would say that's probably my number one, the lack of opportunity that we see and actually for my middle-class friends and upper-middle-class friends that did go to college with me, they right now are on track to never having the lifestyle of their parents because the amount of student loans they had to accumulate while in school. So not only are the poor getting poorer, but our middle class is shrinking, and I've witnessed it firsthand.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you then, your message is obviously inspiring. Can you tell us, how are you? It's not all too often you hear someone say they go from being a public school teacher to running for Congress. So can you tell us a little bit about how you kind of formulated this whole team to come together to run for this office, this position?
Sure. This was something that I had thought about for a very long time, actually. And then, I put thought into it myself. I first needed to convince myself that I could do this, that it's the right time. It's the right time to start getting the message out there. Once I did that, I reached out to a couple of people that I know would be of my core team, to make up my core team, to see how they felt about it and if they thought they could commit to it and if this was the right time. And the resounding answer was yes. I am a firm believer that one of the reasons why we're so underrepresented in Congress is because so little middle-class individuals are able to run for Congress. And as a millennial, as someone who, as part of the generation that's experiencing a student debt crisis, I think it's important that our voices are heard as well and being represented in our government. We make up now a large portion of the population and voting age population. Our voices should be heard. And right now, we are on track of having a declining lifestyle because of the lack of job opportunity, because of incomes declining, because of the student loan crisis. We need to have a voice in government. So, considering all of that, and I just wanted to say, let's just do this. Let's get out there. Let's get the message out. Let's see how people respond to it.
That is awesome. So you're on the ballot. You're 100% going to be there when the people go to vote?
I am 100% on the ballot. Now, if there's some shady stuff, if we get challenged, which we may or may not, I don't know, that we'll fight it back if we have to. But we verified every signature. We had a program to verify that every person that signed the petition was a registered Democrat. So we did our homework. We had the voter file. We've registered hundreds of new people also to vote. So we're prepared. And so, 100% we should be on that ballot. Well, and we've submitted everything already, all the paperwork. So
that is awesome. And, you are running in Hudson County. So for people who are listening who aren't from the area that Eloy and I am from, you won't understand this, but sketchy area. So when he said, as long as nothing sketchy happens, there's a possibility. So I hope, you fight through that and everything gets taken care of. It's awesome to see so many millennials running. For everyone who's been with this show, following our show, week to week, you notice that we get guys like you running for Congress, running for positions, and it's really good to see the face of our leadership is really changing. So let me ask you, because you wanted to talk about campaign finance reform. That is an issue that I deeply am concerned about, and it is of the utmost importance. So please tell me, are you into publicly funded elections? What is your stance on campaign finance reform?
Ideally, I think every single elected position should have a public finance position from the local level onto the federal. Unfortunately, And what I get disheartened with is that most of the attention on public finance, on campaign elections and money in politics goes to Citizens United. Yes, Citizens United was terrible, but it made a terrible situation even worse. The situation was bad already. And especially at the state and local level where most media do not pay attention, where most citizens are not in tune with what's going on, the connections between the donors and who gets city contracts and who doesn't, it's just a sick cycle. I mean, it really is legalized bribery, in my opinion. And I would say it's even worse at the local level because, well, a federal candidate receives hundreds of millions of dollars of donations. They may or may not know personally who's donating to their campaign or what industries are donating to their campaign. But at the local level, you are very much aware of who is giving to your campaign, who's not giving to your campaign. And, we're human beings. What are the incentives we're providing for people to be honest and ethical? I'm not trying to impugn anyone. I'm not saying that people are doing this maliciously because I don't think so. I think most people get caught up in the system and just respond to the incentives we provide as a country and as a society. It's great that Bernie Sanders is able to raise millions of dollars on small donations. However, the only thing I worry about is that scalable to every single level, to every single race out there? I don't know. I don't know that it is at this point because other races don't get the media attention that a presidential race gets. I agree with him 100%. Without getting campaign finance reform done, there's very little chance that we can make major progress on all the other issues. I just think it's the number one issue. I think it's a bipartisan issue as well. What we're seeing on the Republican side, where there's a lot of things motivating that, but I do think that people in general are disgusted with government. And I don't blame them. Now, we come up with different solutions. God knows we do. But I think there's a general angst going on around the country where people are not feeling satisfied. It just got reported that 200-something thousand jobs were created in March. Great. That's great. Unemployment's at 5%. We should be at full employment right now. Yet people are not feeling it. And you know why? Because for me, for example, $300 of my paycheck is going to student loans, and then I got to renegotiate and extend that payment to 30 years so it goes down to $150, something more manageable. Well, now I'm paying back $100,000 of that instead of the $50 that I owe. I mean, it's just not a good situation. It's with student loans. It's with health care. The costs have gone up extraordinarily. So, yeah, campaign finance reform is very, very important to me. We got to get it done. We have to get it done.
So I can assume that if you are elected to Congress, you are going to fight against Citizens United.
Oh, absolutely. Not only am I going to fight against Citizens United, but I want to propose a system. If we can't overturn Citizens United, because as you know, it's very hard to overturn, to add a constitutional amendment to the Constitution. However, there's other things we can do. For example, we could start taxing all donations above $2,700, above $1,000, whatever mark we put. And then conversely, we could do a tax deduction on small donations so that small donors are incentivized to give while big donors are de-incentivized to give as much because most of the money would go back to the government coffers. So that's one way we could get around. We could pass that quickly. We could get around the issues of passing a constitutional amendment or waiting for a Supreme Court nominee to overturn Citizens United. Another thing we could do is having transparency, of course. We could make it so that all donors of these super PACs are well known. However, I don't think that's enough. I really think you need to have the incentives there. Like I said, it's all about the incentives. So if we de-incentivize it by having a heavy tax on large donations, especially to the super PACs where it's unlimited donation amounts, there's no caps there, I think it would quell a lot of our problems currently right now. And it's something that can be done right now. If we rally the country around that idea, that could pass. That could pass the Congress. And that could get signed. And especially if it's a Democratic president, I would be remiss to see them veto such a bill.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So, this is all well and good. And I got to ask you now, because I'm going to college. I'm actually just accepted to George Washington University. I'll probably be going there. So my question is, this won't affect me because that's a private college. But in respect to public colleges, Bernie Sanders wants to make them free. Hillary Clinton wants to give out more loans, cheaper loans. Where are you on that issue?
I think public colleges should be tuition free. That's something that I'm perfectly fine for. I also think, but I want to go a little further, I also think that having debt finance the majority of education, whether it be even in private education or not, is just a horrible system. We need to get a handle on the student loan industry, and really it should not exist. Right now it's mostly in the government hands, and the government's profiting off of students. But we need to have more competition in the market. I mean, it used to be that a student could work a part-time job and pay a lot of their tuition. That doesn't exist anymore. And what's going on here? Well, what we're seeing in higher ed is really sickening. It really mirrors what's going on in the rest of the economy. We're seeing the middle-class profession, the professors get de-unionized, deprofessionalized, and basically broken up. They're replacing them with adjuncts that get very little pay, yet they're still blaming professors for the tuition hikes. The money's not going to professors. If you look at the amount of administrators that have been added to most colleges in the last 30 years, the growth has been insane. They're pumping money in.
If you look at the Rutgers basketball coach, the assistant basketball coach is making $1 million.
Yes, he is, and he's a public worker. If he works for Rutgers, he is a state worker, meaning, state pension, just like I am. I'm a government worker for a local board of education. Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. What we're seeing here is it's this perverse money incentive. It's, a lot of, even private schools, the vast majority of them are nonprofit. All that means is that they don't accumulate so much capital, and they just pump it up into salaries, into these administrative positions. So yeah, tuitions have gone up, but why have they gone up? What is the purpose of higher ed education? And you know what else I worry about? I worry about that we tell students that they have to go to college to be successful, that we are not allowing students to really find themselves. Maybe, what's wrong with my student? I have a student that wants to be a mechanic, yet he sees no outlet in high school. Why not? Why don't we have an outlet for him to use his talents, to develop his talents in high school? Right, maybe he does not want to write 10-page research papers. However, he has skills and he has value to society, and that should be looked at just as valuable as anyone else. When I think about this, I think about my father. My father left Cuba at a young age. No, he does not have a high formal education, but that man could look at any circuit, anything, a computer, a circuit, a boiler, a car, and he fixes it. That's talent. That's intelligence. That's an incredible intelligence. It's a different type of intelligence, and it should be valued. We do not value our workers anymore in our country, and that's a big problem. So what we're seeing is we're having the professional class, which I would technically be a part of as a teacher. The professional class, which is still protected, even though for public school teachers that's being destroyed too, but that's a different subject. The professional class that goes to college, that gets the high-end fundraising jobs, that get hedge managers, the techies, that's fine. What about the workers? Should they not have opportunities as well? Is their labor not valuable anymore? Yet we're pushing kids through Common Core, through all these incentives, into one-size-fits-all. And frankly, colleges know this. They accept these kids. They load them up with student loans, and then they fail out or get kicked out 2 years later. And then they end up with $30,000 of loans. They would have been better off just staying with the high school diploma, and that's sickening to me.
Absolutely. So now, would you extend this to early education, like pre-K, universal pre-K system like in New York City?
We should have a universal pre-K system, absolutely. There's no reason why this country does not have a universal pre-K system. It's the fundamental building block. However, the pre-K system should be founded in sound pedagogy, which I'm sorry if I get too technical with educational terms here, and not just teaching to the test, which is starting at an earlier and earlier age. If it's going to be that, teaching to a test and trying to teach these kids how to bubble in little circles, then no, then that's a waste of money. However, we need but if it's high quality, sound pedagogical, child appropriate preschool, then absolutely.
All right. So You know, I'm just kind of curious then, if we're not going to use Common Core, do you ever get like the fear that, you know, in Tennessee, they're going to start learning stuff that we might not want the youth to be learning, in the sense that, you know, they won't be up to par with somebody who gets taught from the Northeastern bubble or the Western bubble of more affluence? You know, we want to keep them up to the same par. So,
you know, when I first was getting into education, I was a firm supporter of Common Core, of nationalizing the standards, because of this very reason of what you stated. However, our government has so destroyed, mismanaged, and used used this to disguise their ulterior motives that I am so utterly disgusted by what the administration has done, by what has been going on in state governments across the country. I mean, it was used as an excuse to privatize, deprofessionalize another middle-class profession. If we keep destroying, again, Common Core was just the veil that was used to attack these professions. If we just keep destroying middle-class jobs, what is left in our country? What is left? And it's a profession that's disproportionately women are in it. So I do think there is a sick, sexist veil here, because I don't think that lawyers would be attacked in this way. I don't think that doctors would be attacked in this way. So I'm just, because of how it was handled at the federal level, it's just, I don't know if we can be trusted. We need to talk to professionals and not to people that want to monetize our education, which is what happened. We're seeing now strikes in Chicago again. We're seeing that lower income schools are being taken over and destroyed. And we're seeing a system being created where we have the haves and the have-nots, where the charter schools are taking the kids that come more so from two-parent households, slightly higher incomes, less ESL. I'm an ESL teacher, by the way. Less ESL students, less special needs students, and they're leaving those students in the public schools, where it becomes a cycle then. See, in education, we don't want to talk about the real issues. And teachers are scared because they don't want to lose their jobs. We don't want to talk about what poverty does to a community. You go to any school that's impoverished, or in an impoverished community, not only will you see low test scores, low achievement rates, but you'll see very high crime. You'll see very high use of the emergency room in that hospital. You'll see very low maintenance of the roads in the community at large. So this is a systemic issue. Education is part of the solution. It is not the sole solution. Insulting to the intelligence of people when we have these education reformers try to say that this is the silver bullet, that we're going to uplift everyone to the middle class. And it's shame on these politicians that don't want to actually invest the dollars in fixing our communities and want to just blame educators and take the easy road out, where they know that, okay, we reformed the system. We'll see in 8 years if it actually worked out and all these people become middle class. They know that's not going to happen. We've had this type of reform since 2001. Things have gotten worse.
Okay, so let me ask you now. You see, you want all this reform, and it's all well and good. Now, how do you want to pay for it? Because the problem with our government seems to be that we propose all these wonderful programs that you and I can agree on are necessary. Transportation and pre-K and universal education and healthcare. Where does the money come from?
Well, listen. Yes, these things are expensive. Universal pre-K, not that expensive. We could find the billions of dollars needed for that. Tuition for colleges, again, we could find the dollars for that. Yes, that means raising taxes. It means changing the tax system to make it more progressive, or you could do it in a variety of ways. You can make it more progressive, which is something Bernie Sanders has proposed with the different tax rates. You could close more loopholes or close some of the credits and deductions that we provide at the various levels and make it more flat at the current rates. You could start taxing non-worked earned income at the same rates as worked income. Because in this country, if you work for your money, you're paying a higher tax rate than if your money works for itself. That's just the truth. So there are many different ways to raise the revenue. Right now, I would be interested in seeing looking at the defense budget too. We spend so much money on defense. Maybe there's some savings there. And right now we do spend $4 trillion in Washington, D.C.
Now, what I
did, if I could just quickly, what I did at the library board, and this is a much smaller board with 2 other board members, we looked at our current budget. We renegotiated every single contract. We were able to save over $100,000, give the employees a 5% raise, which they hadn't had a raise in so many years in the recent contract negotiations, and still save money. And we did all of this without requesting more. So, yes, and I know it's not the ferry. The ferry is, we're going to cut waste and spending. That's what most politicians do. No, that's not going to cover every single cost. You're going to have to raise some revenue as well. But I'm sure there are some things we could reallocate our priorities.
Mm-hmm. So now, one of the biggest things that I always say is that it's not that we don't have enough money, it's that we're not spending our money in the right ways. For example, with, like you said, the defense budget. We wasted $1.2 trillion on the F-35 military jet that has already been hacked by China. So, go figure. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about is the minimum wage. Your stance on the minimum wage is that it must be raised to a level that supports, workers. So where do you draw the line with the minimum wage? At $15, at $10.10? Where's the minimum wage for you?
Listen, I'll take any minimum wage increase. If there's a bill that's for $10.10, I'll vote positive for that. For $12, I'll vote positive for that. But my advocacy is going to be for the fight for $15. That's where I'm going to.
Now, in New York, they're doing it, and they're doing it gradually over the next couple of years, I believe. But let me ask you, to a small business owner, can they afford a $15 minimum wage?
I have talked to many small business owners in the course of this campaign. One of my main supporters owns a pizzeria here in Elizabeth, and that's actually one of the questions I asked them. And, I manage a budget at the library board, so I look at the numbers too. We have to meet payroll as well. Yes, it would be difficult for the library, for example, at first to adjust to it, but it's doable. Now, for a small business owner, the majority of small business owners run things themselves with a family member. So I don't believe it would adversely affect them. Also, if you look at the national federal minimum wage and the laws and how they're written, usually it stipulates that the revenue generated by the small business has to be above $500,000 or some sort of metric in order for it to apply. I do think that in order to make sure that this does not hurt real small businesses, and I'm not talking Gap opens a store in my corner over here and claims that's a small business. No, I'm talking about real mom and pop shops. We do need to look at more credits for them, more financing, cheap financing for them, and talk with them. The majority of small businesses I've talked to are fine with raising the minimum wage. Actually, a lot of them already pay above the New Jersey minimum wage to their workers.
Now, what I get scared of, though, is that we raise the minimum wage and then, it doesn't affect the big businesses because even though they're the ones complaining about it the loudest, it ends up hurting the small businesses. So I've always been the type of liberal who doesn't know how he feels on it. I think a moderate increase might be reasonable, but then I look at it and I just don't know. What is your sense on the free market? You see, you have Bernie Sanders as a socialist. Where are you? Where would you align? Where would you, label yourself? Because just so the viewers can get a grasp on who you really are.
I would say I'm a progressive. I'm a proud liberal. I'm a proud progressive. I'm fine with the free market system, but what we have now is not really a free market system. What we have now...
Crony capitalism would be the best example to give.
Right. That's what we have now. We have socialized risk for big business, where we take care of a lot of the risk for a lot of them, where they're paying negative tax rates, which means the Treasury Department ends up paying them back. And for workers, for the small business people, they're in the real capitalist world.
Absolutely.
Where they assume all the risk. So, yeah, I'm a progressive. I am a liberal. I'm fine with the free market system. However, the free market system that we have is not really free. If you want to call that socialistic democratic, that's fine, too. I don't like to get into the semantics of everything. I think that government is here to provide a level playing field for most of its people. allow people the chance to have good quality health care, allow people the chance to get a good education, allow for safe neighborhoods to be developed around for kids. And then once everyone has that opportunity, wherever their potential may take them, let their potential go.
Sounds good.
Right now,
to cut you off, but we got to go to break. So
okay.
So are you free to stick around for a little while longer when we get back?
Yes, I am.
All right, sounds great. We're going to have a lot more conversation to draw up when we get back from this break. I'm Bryce Robbins. I'm here with Eloy Delgado. He's running for Congress from the 8th District. Don't miss the rest of our interview. Be right back. This is Opinion Nation.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Get set.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rail. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
All right, welcome back. I'm Bryce Robbins. Today I'm joined by congressional hopeful of the 8th District of my home state, New Jersey, Eloy Delgado. He's running, he's liberal, and he's got a lot of great ideas. So we were just talking about the minimum wage, and we were going to bring up unions. So go for it. Floor is yours. Tell us what you think.
You know, when people ask about minimum wage, and they express that concern, which I understand the concern, what if we go too fast, what about small businesses? You know, if our unionization rate would still be at the level it was 30 years ago, this issue would have been taken care of already. Income inequality would probably been taken care of. However, as our manufacturing jobs got shipped away, the unionization rate of our workforce in the private workforce is in the single digits, maybe at 10%. I think it went up last year a little bit. At the public sector, which is our strongest unions now, where the unions are the strongest now, it is being declined as well, being destroyed as well now. So what we're seeing is that working people do not have any leverage or any voice in the workforce anymore. And when that happens, wages stay depressed. Productivity has been incredibly high for over 20 years. Wages has not kept pace with productivity like it used to. Also, if you look at how much wages are paid in the average wage relative to our GDP, it's a very small amount now. We used to be a much higher average wage in this country. We don't have that. So what I tell people is that something has to give. If we're going to have a big middle class, a strong, robust middle class, people need to earn a good living.
Right.
People need to earn a good living. And our corporations now, they're the richest they've ever been in our history.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't argue with you there. So, I
think...
Oh, yeah, sorry, continue.
I think we could afford to pay our workers a little bit more. Or if not, allow them to bargain. Allow them to form unions and bargain for wages. So that a union with management at a local shop, wherever it may be, at a local place, they know the numbers, they know their budgets very well. Allow them to negotiate. Instead, what we have is that we tilt the unionization issue towards management so much that workers get fired if they try to unionize. They get intimidated very quickly if they try to unionize at Walmart, for example. And I think Walmart can afford to pay their workers a lot more.
That's true.
I don't think Walmart's going to go out of business, by paying a higher minimum wage, which is the number one employer in our country, Walmart.
Kind of interesting, kind of sad as well. All right, so I want to jump ships here. I wanted to talk about the issue of the environment and climate change. So it's my opinion that, and my opinion's kind of evolved since being with this show a year ago, that while climate change to you and I is real and it's an issue, we're going about it the wrong way. We should be advocating for environmental protection as opposed to proving that climate change is real. Because all too often we see knuckleheads saying it's not real, here it's not real, whatever, getting all flustered about it, and it detracts from the real issue, protecting the environment. So I guess my question for you is, what are you going to do? What are your ideas to continue to keep our environment safe, and so that our environment doesn't end up like much of the county where you're coming from, Hudson County, that's been filled with PCBs and all this crud that, is never going to be cleaned up?
Right. No, that's an interesting point, what you bring up, that we get too focused on proving that climate change is real and it's important. That's interesting. As a teacher, I'm a firm advocate of solid education, including science education. So personally, yes, I think it's very important that we all get a firm understanding. What is the scientific method? How do we know it's real? What's a hypothesis? What's testing? Very academic, I understand. What you bring up as a policy matter, how we sell it, I'm open to what you just said because that's interesting. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is pass laws to protect the environment, to transition ourselves to a clean energy economy. And if that means just focusing on, we could have a nice high build economy, high energy paying economy. If we transition over, then that's probably a smart idea. In terms of selling policy.
Yeah, we can all agree that, I can't breathe coal. You can't breathe fracking or drink fracking water. So let's cut the crap about the planet warming and let's just focus on getting the job done, cleaning up the environment. So I'm glad that you can you see it both ways. And I hope that if you get elected, you're a strong advocate for the environment because we really need a voice for our environment. So, yeah, please.
One of the reasons why I'm running as a Democrat, as a progressive, I think in New Jersey, of all the states, in my district, out of all these districts, we need a voice for for the environment. We need a strong advocate for all of these issues, which I don't think we're getting right now. So, yeah, I fully intend to being a strong advocate for all these issues, and I'm very open to how to sell it to the public, how to sell it to the Congress, because I want to get things done. And I agree with you. If I could get everyone to agree, okay, we should transition over to clean fuel because it's better for us to breathe, then sure, we'll sell it that way. That's fine. If it's still accomplishing the goal, that's absolutely fine. I'm actually glad that you brought that up to me because I hadn't considered it that way before.
Hey, glad to help, I guess. That's always my favorite. So I wanted to move on to another topic with you, drugs. It's a huge problem, especially in our state and in surrounding states and, quite frankly, around the country. So, we have the Schedule 1 or whatever drugs, and for some reason marijuana is included in that. So I got to ask the big question. Would you legalize marijuana?
Yes.
Would you vote yes for that? You would?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, I
That's
would.
all I need.
Yes, I would. And because, what really upset me growing up and what opened my eyes? I saw a lot more drug use in my affluent college town than I ever did in my poor urban town.
Mm-hmm.
What I did see though is that when my friends in suburbia would get caught, they would get off right away. When my friends in Elizabeth, New Jersey would get caught, well, they ended up with records, which now hurts their economic opportunity, their economic potential to gain employment in our economy.
I gotta say, the best line I've heard from the presidential debates was when Bernie Sanders said that you have bankers on Wall Street who walk away from their crimes with no record, but a black kid in whatever town gets caught with a little bit of marijuana, and that's it. He's gonna get arrested. He's gonna get a record. So I absolutely agree with you on that. Now, and I think that is got to be a good source of revenue for whatever spending plans we need, because it's abhorrent how the illegal the structure of marijuana laws is targeting minorities in urban areas. And I think you could say the war on drugs as a whole has done that. But let's move to other drugs. We have the heroin epidemic. We have cocaine. What would you do about these drugs? Are you going to treat these people criminally? Are they, are they sick? Do they have mental illness? How are you going to help people on drugs? What are we going to do?
I think that with most illegal drug use, it should be decriminalized for the user of said drug. The focus should be on treatment and rehab for these people. I think still for major dealers and whatnot, we still need to pursue them because usually they're involved with other crime issues as well. It's not just high drug trade, and I'm talking about the high rollers. I'm not really talking about the guy in the corner. He needs rehab too and help and job training and, differences. The guy in the corner that lives in his community is just doing it for economic opportunity. We could remedy that a different way. But yeah, I think for the most part, we could rechange the whole culture around drugs by focusing on treatment. And I think by having it so, it's illegal, there's an allure to it that attracts young people to it, that if it wasn't such a big deal, I think we would see a lot of our problems go away. When Portugal decriminalized drugs, I forget what year it was, they have seen a massive drop in drug use. I think we can learn from other countries' experiences who've dealt with the same issues and what they've done differently, and when they get better results, we should try to emulate them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, moving along the same line of this, we have a big issue, it seems, with minority communities and police departments, especially in today's day and age. And it seems that race relations are, looking a little dangerous. So when we see someone like yourself, Hispanic man, running for Congress, it shows the ever-changing face of our government. And I think that's a beautiful thing. What are you going to bring to the table to, I guess, remedy the disconnect between we have a minority community with a ever-growing representation of this country and a police force that it doesn't seem to be connecting?
Well, I think a lot of the issue with our professional jobs is that they're not reflective of the communities they serve, which, that has a lot of reasons. I'm not blaming the workers themselves, but that has a lot of systemic reasons. So we need to do more to recruit people of all cultures, of all types of different Americans, especially from those communities, into these jobs. Because these are also high-paying jobs. So you've had more community residents in these jobs, living in those communities, you would see that local economy start to improve because more money would circulate as well. Mm-hmm. So yes, we need to do more by saying to our kids, our minority kids, yes, you can be a teacher. Yes, you can be a police officer. Yes, you could be a doctor. A lot of the time they don't receive that message. It's something that I'm passionate about and advocate for, and I tell my students all the time because, I see it. I am one of the few Latino males in the teaching force of where I work. Mm-hmm. And people may not understand that representation is so important if they don't have to think about it. But for those, for me, when President Barack Obama, just to give you an example, got elected, for me, it was such an inspirational moment. Like, oh my gosh, this is possible for me too. I can achieve things. Representation is vitally important. If all you've been surrounded with your entire life, if you grew up in a poor community, you don't see what education has done for your family, you don't see the fruits of American labor. When you look around and you see that the people in power don't look like you, it sends a message. It really sends a message. And when I talk to my friends, my Caucasian friends about it, at first it's hard for them to understand, but I just say to them, listen, just try to put yourself in their shoes. What are they seeing around them? How do they internalize what they see around them? Because we internalize everything as human beings. And I think that it's important that we allow for more economic opportunity, which means opening these professions up, having more recruitment. Like I teach intro to education at the high school that I work in. That's such an important class to have in that high school because we have, most of my entire class is minority students, and now they're being exposed to a profession that they may not have been open to before.
Right. Now,
so I think we need to do more innovative things like that at the educational level in these communities so that our kids will go into these forces and into these professions. And I think that would go a long way to remedying these disconnects that we're seeing or these issues. And to more quickly answer your question more directly, I think with the current police forces, we need to make sure that they're trained, that they have a cultural sensitivity, that they're embedded in the community, that, when you deal with criminals 24/7, you may get a skewed perception of your community. So it is important that they're at community functions, that they're mentoring, that the role of being an urban police officer is redefined a little bit.
Yeah, it disgusts me to hear the statistic, though, that 30,000 people are behind bars for marijuana. I mean, that is unacceptable in every sense. So,
can you believe that? And those people have records now that they have to report on their unemployment. And then we see, why are these communities still poor?
It's truly unbelievable, and it's got to change. And I think you running for Congress is a great way to change it. I personally don't know whether I like interviewing people who I staunchly disagree with because it makes for great debate, or just having a liberal love fest on the show. So, either way works out well. But this is definitely good. So, we're winding down the show, so I figured we could just get into a little game here where I like to just shoot questions at you. Essentially different topics. I'll just name a topic, and you just tell me your view on it in maybe 2 sentences. Sound good?
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. First one would be gun control. What are your views on gun control?
We need a uniform national system of gun control that is the same in Alabama as it is in New Jersey.
Sounds good to me. So now, what would you... Actually, it kind of makes me want to ask... Normally I don't do this, but I got to do this because... That's a very interesting question. That's a very interesting thing that you just said, and I've never really heard that before. Can you go a little deeper into that? Maybe explain to people what that means, because that is one thing that is unique that I've heard.
Sure. Listen, a lot of the issues with guns, are they going to take my guns? No, we don't need to take anyone's guns. You could still hunt. What we need desperately is that a uniform system. The majority of illegal guns in New Jersey are guns found in crimes in New Jersey were legally purchased at one point out of state. It makes no sense when it's so easy to cross state lines when we live in the same country to have a patchwork of different gun laws here and there and there. We need a national system that's uniform across the board, and I think that would go a long way with our ability to prevent gun crime and to have a system where everyone's maybe not completely happy, but we could agree with.
You might cause a stir in the South, but fair enough.
Listen, if they could pass a background check, if they have a good history, whatever the details of it, we can negotiate, we could talk about. But we need a national system. It makes no sense why New Jersey's laws are different than Tennessee's laws or vice versa. It's so easy to go. Then it makes no sense for New Jersey. It makes no sense for anyone.
Yeah. All right. So next question would be on abortion. You know, you hear Donald Trump wants to punish women for it. Well, what's your stance on abortion?
I am pro-choice. That is a woman's call between her and her doctor and her loved ones.
Mm-hmm. All right, good. So now, what about the NSA? We hear a lot of things about the NSA, security. Is it security? Is it a breach of privacy? What's your stance?
I think our government has accumulated way too much authority over the last 12 years. If you look at the bills that passed in the wake of 9/11, these bills had been proposed before, a couple of them. 9/11 was then used, okay, perfect chance to get some things done. I think we need a lot more transparency. Citizens have a right to know what's going on. I understand the need for security. I completely do, and I appreciate what the men and women in these agencies working because they're working for a mission. However, as citizens, we need to be very careful how much of our liberty we give up. And I'm concerned about what's going on because we just don't know. Other than the leaks that we weren't supposed to know, that let us know some things. There needs to be a little bit more transparency, and we need to have a more open dialogue as a country as to what we're doing and why.
Donald wants to build.
I think we're long overdue for immigration reform. There are millions of people that have been working in this country that are in the shadows. If we could bring them out, again, I see this partially as an economic issue. If we could bring them out of the shadows and they could become citizens and get those full-time jobs, get better wages, that would help those communities, especially like Elizabeth, New Jersey, to overcome economically. And I think it's just good for everyone involved.
So what would you do at the border? See, the thing is, at the border has been the safest it's been in a generation. I mean, President Obama has gotten criticized a lot because of the amount of deportations and the amount of people we're catching at the border and sending back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, we need border security. Yes, a country needs borders. But illegal immigration from Mexico is negative. It's in decline, and it has been in decline for quite some time. The Latino migration wave has ended. What we're seeing now more is that people are overstaying their visas, and that's a giant chunk of the illegal population. I think it's at 40% now, and it's rising, though. Are people overstaying their visas from around the world, particularly from Asia? So the immigration question is changing. What Donald Trump is doing is just demonizing and playing up tribal politics, which is disgusting. And I'm not saying it's a non-issue because it's still an issue, but we've gotten pretty good at securing our border. I think anyone that says otherwise isn't looking at what's going on and the amount of deportations we have, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So next topic, free trade. You know, you see the TPP, NAFTA, all the trade deals. Bernie's against them. Hillary was for them, now against them, whatever she is. Where are you on this?
I am against these free trade deals. I saw, growing up, the manufacturing factories disappear from Elizabeth, New Jersey. You know, my father used to have a manufacturing job, that had a pension, that had a union. That all disappeared. What we have now in Elizabeth are mostly stores, mostly business stores that pay minimum wage, that can't uplift the community or support a family. So no, I am for I'm for trade. Don't get me wrong. I'm for sensible trade, but we have to protect our own interests as well. What we're seeing with TPP is that the administration decided to focus, to do a foreign policy move and sacrifice a little bit of our economic livelihood in order to buffer out China, in my opinion, when I look at that issue. I think that was more of a foreign policy move than an economic one.
And the last one I'll ask you about is Social Security. How would you vote to reform it, to expand it, to change it? What's your view on that?
In an era where most workers have 401ks, if they have a 401k, I think actually the majority of workers don't even have retirement benefits. In an era where 401ks are so underfunded because who can contribute to it when your wages haven't gone up in so many years? I think Social Security must be protected and it must be expanded. With priority on lower income and middle income individuals.
My problem is I just think you got to figure out how to fund that thing. But
right. And that's a negotiation.
Yeah. My opinion's always been a pay it for yourself type system. But, I don't know. That's your job because you're going to be the policymaker. And maybe I'll join you one day, but who knows? All right, so for the last couple minutes, why don't you tell everybody, where we can find you, how we can help, donate, get in contact, anything like that.
Listen, if you guys, thank you so much again for allowing me to be on. If you guys want an honest politician, someone that's going to put people first, please support me. You can donate, contribute, or join this effort at www.eloy, that's ELOY, J Delgado, DELGADO.com, EloyJDelgado.com. We need all the help we can get. We're knocking on doors. We're going to churches. We're going to supermarkets. We're going to bodegas. We're spreading the message. But we need support and help. You may not agree with me on everything, and that's fine. Honest people could have disagreements about policy. But what we can agree with is that politicians should be honest and ethical, and that we need to have a system that promotes that and not incentivizes corruption like our current political finance system. If you like what you hear, then please come aboard and help me out. Thank you.
Eloy, thank you very much. I definitely hope to have you back on the show, sometime soon. It's been a wonderful interview, and I'm glad you joined in today.
Thank you, sir. Again, thank you for the opportunity. Love talking with you.
All right, me too. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That was Eloy Delgado. He's running from the 8th District of New Jersey, my home state. And, I'll be honest here. I have had many interviews with candidates. You've heard them all. That one might have been my favorite. A well-spoken guy, young, ready, fired up, wants to take action. And you know what? That guy, I hope he wins his election. He's running he wants to win the primary because he's running from a very heavy minority area. So Democrats going to get it. The problem is who's going to get the Democratic nomination. He's running against an incumbent, not a well-known incumbent, apparently. So, if he can win that, he's probably got the job he wants. And I like him. Check out his website. I'll definitely post it on the Opinion Nation Facebook page, but definitely check him out. He's a great guy, public school teacher. Hey, teaching the youth. It doesn't get much better than that. Elizabeth Warren was actually a teacher, I believe, before she ran for Senate. All right. That's all we got for this week. I know Rick is crying behind the panel, just itching to get off because of all the liberal love fest we got going. But this is just this week. Next week, we have another anti-Israel group that we want to bring on the show, have another debate. No, it is not Carrie Wedler. God, she was nuts. But that's besides the point. Things of the past. All right. I'm Bryce Robbins. This has been Opinion Nation. Can't wait to be back next week. We're going to only have more conversation to be had. All right. Catch you later. Have a good week, everybody.
Shit, Negro. That's all you had to say.
Oh, Rick.
In In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.